I'm going to ask Dr. Gina Piane to come up and join me at the podium, and we're going to start her presentation. Dr. Piane is an expert in public health. She holds a doctorate in public health from University of Illinois at Chicago. She's a Fulbright scholar, and she's a full professor in my Department of Health Services and Leadership. And she's going to talk to us today about healthy eating. And we've got some videos that we're going to go through. Don't feel like you have to write everything down, because we're going to package this up and send it to you, and we'll get you the recipes and everything else. So we'll package it together, and I'll help her with the video as we go along if she needs it as well.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted this for the clock.
Okay.
That was a really nice introduction. As she said, I have a bachelor's in chemistry from 1981. Master's in Public Health, 1984, doctorate in Public Health, 1989, and then a master's in clinical psychology, 2020, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. So went from no feelings, chemistry, to psychology, which is all about feelings. But today we're going to talk about food. I'm also a cook, for lifelong cooks. I started cooking when I can stand. So first of all, this is Public Health Week. Happy Public Health Week. I don't know how you usually celebrate Public Health Week, but what I'd like to do is talk about food. So what does food have to do with public health? Okay, if you don't answer, I'm going to make you do something. Okay. Make a list, get a pen and paper, get your notes function. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Write down as many things as you can that public health has to do with food. Prevention, food safety, infectious disease, foodborne illness, food security. There's also safety in the kitchen, what happened, first aid, all of this. So we're going to focus on a few things, which is not really focused, it's sort of scattered a bit, but talk a little bit about nutrition. I am not, as I said, a registered dietitian, so I don't give advice to people who have allergies or who have particular diseases that are affected by nutrition. This is public health nutrition for the masses. We'll talk a little bit about how to prevent foodborne illness, a little bit about how food affects your mental health, and a little bit about kitchen safety. All while I'm trying to cook a meal. I was hoping to have a kitchen here and do it for you, but I did it on video. And then I have to listen to myself talk. That's just, nobody likes that. So what I've decided to do for a dinner is to teach how to make a whole fish, a whole branzino, which is a fish that comes from the Adriatic Sea near Greece. Do some roasted vegetables, make paella rice, and an arugula salad, and then I'll give you a couple bonus things after that. So my message with food is it doesn't have to be stressful. It doesn't have to be that complicated. You don't have to read all of these blogs about what do I eat first and what do I eat second and do I have to measure everything. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be easy. My message is just eat. Or as my grandmother would say, manja, manja, just have some fun with it. The macros that are important in nutrition are your protein, carbohydrate, and fat. The alcohol I put there, so you know it does have quite a lot of calories per gram for alcohol. So the very simplified version is that proteins are meats, poultry, fish, nuts, some grains like quinoa, and they're needed to build muscle, among other things. The carbohydrates, the simple ones like sugar, give you quick energy. The complex carbohydrates like your pasta and potatoes and others are longer term energy. Fats are for storing energy. There are 3 types of fats. Do you remember organic chemistry? Did you love organic chemistry? Everybody loves organic chemistry. So saturated fats mean that everywhere there's a carbon atom, there's H's attached to all the places. Saturated means exactly the same thing as hydrogenated. So that when you see hydrogenated fats, those are saturated. Saturated fats tend to be solid at room temperature, like butter. Like when you cooked your Easter lamb maybe and then you let it sit for a little bit, it gets that solid. And red meats and pork, solid butter. Saturated fats, along with cholesterol that you produce in your own liver or you take in from other animal fat, causes plaque and build up in your arteries. The other two types of fats are monounsaturated. One place, there's a double bond so that it has been unsaturated. Those are chicken, other poultries, most vegetables, avocados, monounsaturated. The polyunsaturated have more than one double bond. So there's many places where the hydrogens have been taken off. Those are your vegetables and fish. We need all types of fat. If you are trying to reduce your cholesterol, you want to keep all three types of fat, but reduce them down to about 7% of your diet. If you're not trying to reduce your cholesterol, about 10% for each. So you want to think about your week, your month. Are you eating some saturated fat meals, some polyunsaturated fat meals, some monounsaturated fat meals? You also get monounsaturated in nuts. When you're in the kitchen, it's important to prevent infectious disease and prevent injury and treat injury while you're in the kitchen. So some people are afraid of the knives or afraid of, the two most common injuries in the kitchen are a cut or a burn. So the way that you prevent that is through cleaning, through how you prevent foodborne illness. I'm getting a little scattered. Maybe I should balance my brain. No. So foodborne illness, the way you prevent it is by cleaning your surfaces. You're not a restaurant if you're cooking at home, so you don't have to bleach everything and be overly clean, but you want it clean and sanitary. Wash your hands for 20 seconds with soap and warm water. It's important that you cook food to a proper temperature. Cold food should be kept below 40 degrees. Hot foods above 145. Some of them 160 degrees. You want to avoid cross-contamination. That's why you have different cutting boards for your vegetables that you're going to keep raw versus your meats that you're going to cook. And then communication. What does that have to do with kitchen safety? It's like, I am coming across the kitchen with a big pot of hot boiling water. Please make sure you're not in my way. So even if it's in your own kitchen, communication's important. So if you do cut yourself, you want to discard any of the food that you got blood on. You can't really wash it well. Clean the surfaces, bandage the cut, and do regular first aid depending on how severe the cut is. If you do burn yourself in the kitchen, first of all, don't grab things with your hands. Use mitts. But a burn, you want to run it under cold water as soon as possible. And if it's blistering or the blister has popped, you may need additional first aid. So why did I choose a branzino? There were so many choices. It was hard to say what to make. But it is a nice white fish. It's a high source of protein. It's got lots of polyunsaturated fats and some complex carbohydrates. like just about any other fish. Is this going? Click again. So I'm choosing the branzino. It's responsibly farm raised. I usually get wild caught. You can see that the eyes are clear. And it's a whole fish. And I'm going to take it home and cook it. Oh, that was my fish guy. No, he's famous. So I don't know if you heard that, but the eyes need to be clear. You want a responsibly sourced fish. Hello, welcome to my kitchen. I'm going to make a whole fish today. I bought this branzino at Lazy Acres. There's a market down the street. It's a whole fish. You can tell it's fresh when it's dry and it has clear eyes. I'm going to salt it, put some pepper, some herbs, lemon, and onion, and then just bake it in the oven at a really high temperature. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in some salt, and on the outside, this is kosher salt, and a little bit of pepper. I like to use fresh ground pepper. This fish has been kept at a temperature below 40 degrees so that none of the bacteria that might be in the fish will grow. And we don't want to keep it in between 40 and 140 degrees for more than 2 hours. So I'm going to put you to the side, put a little bit of this avocado oil, which I'm just starting to use. It has a high heat tolerance. Doesn't smoke too quickly. Put you over here in this little bed. You cut an onion, you cut the end off, the other end. I'm going to peel the onion. And I put the scraps in a little container in my sink for green waste. The more we can put in green waste, the less there will be in landfill. Now while I'm cooking, I'm washing my hands a lot, just to avoid any cross-contamination. So I'm just going to get a few small slices of this onion. I have to be really careful. I know where my fingers are at all the time, so I don't cut my fingers. If I do, I will make sure that none of the blood contaminates the food. I will do some first aid, stop the bleeding, close it up, get rid of all the contamination. If I burn myself in the kitchen, I'm going to run it under cold water. So I have some small slices of onion I'm going to push into the fish cavity here. And add a little lemon from my tree outside. Some thin slices of lemon. I think 4 will fit. And I also have an herb garden. So I have some rosemary and some thyme. If you have any other herbs, you can use those. Put them in the fish cavity. Just a little bit of thyme. I'm going to put a little bit of the oil on the outside of the fish and pop it in a really hot oven. Now sometimes it's important to preheat your oven and sometimes it really doesn't matter, but with a fish you want it preheated. So right now it's at 450 degrees. It just gave me a little signal. And take the whole fish, put it in this hot oven. And I'll check it in a few minutes.
What were you saying?
I like to wash my hands for about 20 seconds. paper towel.
To turn that off, yes. That's the way I learned it in the hospitals.
Okay, I'm gonna go check the fish. It's been about 18 minutes. I'm not gonna use my bare hands because I could get burnt. I'm going to use my bare hands to check the fish. It's nice and crispy on the outside. Put it up on top of the stove, check the temperature. The internal temperature for a fish should be about 145 degrees. And we have 145 degrees with my probe thermometer. So, can you hear that sizzle? The lemon got cooked a little bit, the onion, the herbs. And I'll let it cool off a little bit. And then if you have people who are squeamish, you might want to fillet the fish before you put it on the plate. Otherwise, you could serve it like this. Remember, don't touch it. Just came out of the oven. I made this lemon aioli. I made a quick lemon aioli. Used some mayonnaise, lemon juice from my tree, some Dijon mustard, and a few capers. And that will be a nice little sauce for the fish. I'm going to get a couple spoons. I'm not sure how well I can do this, but I want to remove some of the fins and the bone. You can see that the fish is flaky. I was at a really nice French restaurant and someone filleted the whole thing with 2 spoons, break the fillet, and there wasn't a single bone. I don't claim to be that talented, but a lot of people like the skin if it's nice and crunchy. You see the nice white fish that comes with the branzino. And serve it without the bones. It's not just kids who don't like to see the head. There's some adults that don't like to see the head. I'm getting this nice flaky fish. I like to serve it with the onion, a little bit of the herb, and some of the lemons. But they're delicious. Not too many of the herbs, just a little bit. The second fillet of the fish comes off a lot easier than the first. Remove as many bones as you can. Let the people eating the fish know there may be bones because we can't always be absolutely sure. And grab the tail. This part out, put that in your green waste. Over here. And then below, move away all the bones. And I should have a really nice fillet here. I'm going to get something a little bigger to pick it up than a couple of spoons. Be right back. She's coming back. There she is. And there we have a whole branzino. So you may ask, fish, do I have to worry about mercury? How much fish can I have? The larger the fish, the greater the potential for mercury. The smaller the fish, the lower potential. So if you like those little anchovies or smelts, they have very little potential that they would have mercury contamination. And as the larger fish eat the medium fish, and all, then that builds up. So your halibut and tuna have more potential. That doesn't mean that you should not eat them. It's just there's a little more potential for mercury. Wild caught or farmed, it's not that simple of an answer. Generally, you go for wild caught. Some farms are quite good. You want to look for sustainable, so we're not overfishing the oceans. Your source should be reputable, so a store that keeps their fish on ice as they transport it, and you should maintain proper temperature of the fish throughout the whole process. Okay, the second thing I want to make is some roasted vegetables, and they can be any kind of vegetable pretty much. You can choose a single vegetable, you can choose a variety. What you want is similar sizes so that they cook at the same time. You season them with salt and pepper, roast them in a hot oven about 400 or so until they're as brown as you like them. They're vegetables, so it doesn't really matter about the temperature. You can always glaze them afterwards with balsamic vinegar and oil, just balsamic vinegar, maybe balsamic and honey, or serve them with hummus. This is a picture of my farmer's market where I bought said vegetables. So I am making vegetables. I'm going to cut them into similar pieces, peeled some of the carrots. I have Brussels sprouts and a Romanesque cauliflower, which is a little pointy one, which are kind of fun. I'm washing the vegetables. I'm not sanitizing them necessarily. That's not important. I got these cute little round carrots too. If you pay really close attention, you'll see that when I put them in and then take them out, they're slightly different vegetables because I burnt the first batch. Got distracted, had a client in the other room, and then it's like they're charred. So they come out slightly different. So I'm just cutting up the carrots there, and I'm going to cut the Brussels sprouts in half. I'm going to cut the Romanesque by cutting the core out, and then it comes into little flowers. Put them on a sheet pan. I usually use parchment paper just because it keeps my sheet pans a little cleaner. Put a little bit of olive or avocado oil, those that have a high heat, salt, pepper. You can put garlic, you can put herbs. Just pop them in the oven. Yes, as long as you have potable water. It's not necessary to get a vegetable rinse or anything. Yeah, those are marketing. It's not necessary. And there I'm throwing them on. I don't know if it's Brussels sprout abuse. I'm throwing them. Then just a little oil. That's the little bit of olive oil there. Not a lot. We're not frying them. We're just roasting them. Okay, I am taking them out of the oven. I've changed my outfit. It's another day. I did take them out. Now I'm glazing them with a little bit of honey. I have a friend who is a beekeeper in Big Sur, and that's where the honey's from. And I put a little bit of balsamic vinegar, and then I just stir it up. So that's the roasted vegetables. As I said, you could use any kind of vegetable you really like. The next thing I'm going to make is paella rice. That's got complex carbohydrates in the rice. There's some protein. You can use this as a base for putting chicken or sausage or chicken and sausage or seafood on the rice. This one I'm just making vegetarian. So I'm going to use an onion, olive oil, garlic, a tomato. You can use canned tomatoes if you want. A little bit of sugar, some paprika, cup of rice. I use a short grain rice for this. If you look at the rice, it looks more short and squat, which is a paella or an arborio rice. You're going to use some broth. You can make your own broth. You can use vegetable broth. You can use chicken broth if you'd like. A little bit of white wine and some saffron. Now I'm going to make a fairly simple rice dish. It's like a paella. I'm going to start with half of a yellow onion. I'm going to chop it finely, put it into my skillet with some olive oil. Then I'll add some garlic and tomato. Let's cook that down. So I just take the peel off the onion. It doesn't really matter if you use a yellow onion or a sweet onion. Red onions do taste differently than yellow onions. Got this put away. Do half of this onion. You don't have to cut quickly like they do on cooking shows where they're racing. You can do it very carefully. No need to be a chef or to do it super fast. I'm just cutting this into small dice. I'm getting that all ready. I'm going to get a clove of garlic, a nice chubby clove of garlic. My favorite way to open a garlic is take my mortar and pestle and smash the garlic. You can use a glass, a mug, and something that doesn't break. It makes it pretty easy to peel. You might want to take out the stem because that can be a little bit bitter. It's not really important. I'm going to chop this up. I don't put the garlic in with the onion because the garlic cooks much quicker than the onion. So I'm going to put 2.5 tablespoons of olive oil in my skillet. And here's a half. And I'm going to start cooking this on a medium heat on my oven. I'm going to get on the stove, not the oven. I'm going to get the olive oil a little warm before I put the onion in. It's a medium heat. While I'm waiting for that to heat up, I can prepare my tomato. I'm going to take out the stem. Usually cut off there's not much on the bottom. I'm going to peel it. If I was peeling a lot of tomatoes, like for spaghetti sauce, I would put them in boiling water briefly and then the skin would pop. But since I'm only doing one, doing it the hard way, which is to just pull the peel off. You can do it with a knife or with your fingers. There's no problem having the peel in the dish. It's just a little less presentable. Looks better. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, my olive oil should be warmed up now. I'm going to move and put the onion in. A lot of instructions tell you to wait till it's translucent, which is a little misnomer. You want the onion to be soft. I'm getting a wooden spoon. And just coat the onion with the olive oil and let it heat up. I'm still peeling my tomato. Okay. So my onions have cooked down for about a minute or two. they're soft. I'm going to add the garlic. Stir that around a little bit, and then the chopped tomatoes. What I'm going to add to this is some salt, some sugar, some paprika, and a little bit of saffron. And I'm going to cook this down until the tomatoes are soft and kind of jammy. I've got about a half a teaspoon of sugar, a little bit of salt, a half a teaspoon of paprika. This is sweet paprika, not smoked paprika. And some saffron. I'm going to give a nice little pinch of saffron. I'm going to cook this down, as I said, so it's kind of jammy. And then I'm going to add my rice and some broth with wine. In the meantime, while this is getting jammy, I think that's a word, I'm not really sure. I'm going to warm up 1.5 cups of chicken broth and a half a cup of white wine. I have 1.5 cups of chicken broth and a half a cup of white wine that I'm going to warm up in a saucepan. I'm going to use that for the liquid to cook the rice once the tomatoes are cooked down. This may take a few minutes. So I cooked this down for about 5 minutes or so, and it's splattering a little bit and the tomatoes are soft. I'm going to take 1/2 of a cup of, this is paella rice. You can use arborio rice. If you look at it, it's a short grain, like round rice. Kind of, it's not the long grain rice. You can use any rice, but I think this one will work best. I'm going to put a half a cup in with the tomato mixture and stir it around so it all gets coated with the oil. So once it's all coated, I'm going to put in my broth and wine that has been warming up in the saucepan. And all I have to do is wait for it to cook down and make sure the rice is tender. Oh, and it was, I guess. Thought there would be another video there. It came out great. You can let it be crunchy too. You can leave it in the pan, don't stir it, and then let the bottom kind of burn a little. Burn is not the right word, but for paella, you want it crispy on the bottom. Some people, that's their favorite part. To round out our meal, we're going to have a salad. I decided to make an arugula salad. It's really pretty easy to make. Very low calorie, high nutrient, green. 1 cup of arugula is about 5 calories. It's mostly water. And here's the breakdown. Good fiber as well. That is my garden. I'm going to pick the tiniest leaves of the arugula because they have the best flavor. The big ones are very, very peppery. And now I've cut up the arugula. I washed it just in regular water, put a few cherry tomatoes, lemon juice, a little bit of salt and pepper, and then some cheese. I choose Pecorino Romano all the time and just toss it together, and it's a fancy arugula salad. And there's Louis again. Okay, so there's the salad. Okay. So, the question, is this a perfect meal? There's no such thing as a perfect meal, like, oh, you have to have this or that, or what's wrong with this part. It doesn't have to be that complicated. You really want to look at yourself over the week or so, what you eat for the week. Not is there one perfect food or one perfect meal. We're not looking for perfect. One of the things that I said I do is I'm a marriage and family therapist. I specialize in eating disorders, and some of my patients take all of the public health advice so rigidly. And, it's like, oh, I've got to measure everything. I can't have a bit of fat. I can't have any salt. And it's like, that's not what we're saying. Don't go that far and create so much anxiety with food. You want to find joy in cooking and eating. I'm going to ask Mike to open this and give everybody a kiss. While he's doing that, simple option is just to roast chicken, which is high in monounsaturated fats. Don't eat them yet. And I demonstrate a Sicilian fennel salad, which is another good option. So I'm back in the kitchen, and I'm going to make an entree that's high in monounsaturated fats, something very simple. These are 2 whole chicken legs. They're organic. I am not going to wash them in the sink. If you wash chicken, it spreads the germs that might be in the chicken around your kitchen. So we are going to season them and put them in this pan and roast them in the oven. I'm not adding any additional fats. Putting a little bit of salt on both sides. And then the seasoning of your choice. My seasoning of choice is always garlic. So I'm going to put a little bit of garlic on both sides. And put a little bit of onion powder. I have a little bit of white pepper. I'm going to put them in a preheated oven. Give them space. And all I have to do is put them in the preheated oven, which is 375, for about an hour or so. You want to check the internal temperature. I like it with a nice crispy skin. Very simple entree. Okay, my chicken's been in the oven for about an hour at 375. I'm going to check it. I want it to be an internal temperature of 180 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 82 degrees Celsius. I use my probe thermometer in the thickest part of the chicken. Have you ever been at the farmer's market or in the produce section and there's fennel? What do you do with fennel? Here's one option. It's a Sicilian salad. They eat a lot of fennel there with blood. I'm going to make a Sicilian salad with a bulb of fennel, some red onion, some blood oranges, and these are called Moroccan olives, but in Sicily they call them Sicilian olives. A little bit of olive oil, you mix it together, it's nice and crunchy. If you ever wondered what to do with the fennel, here's something you can do. I'm going to take off the outsides because they're a little dark. This I'm just going to put in waste, wash it off a bit. I just want the bulb for this salad. I'm going to use a few of the fronds just for looks. It tastes a little bit licoricey, but not too much. I don't really care for black licorice at all myself, but fennel is mild enough that it's a nice flavor. So I'm going to use a mandolin. You don't have to use a mandolin. You can just take a knife and cut things thin. I need to cut off the bottom of the fennel. And with the mandolin, it has a safety device On the side it has a lock. I put it on level number 1 because I want nice thin slices. I'm going to put the fennel inside the mandolin, and I'm only going to use this safety device to make very thin slices. As I said, you can do this with a knife. It just might not be quite as thin and uniform. And I use this device to push it down and make nice thin slices. So you can see the thin slices I have here. I'm going to put them in my bowl. I'm going to make some equally thin slices of red onion, and I'm going to peel the blood orange and put it in with this salad. So I'm going to slice up the peeled blood orange, and I want to put the juice in with the salad. I think all you missed was the onion. You can put them in slices or half slices, take out the pits or seeds. And I have about 20 of the oil-cured black olives. I pulled the pits out of them. And I'm going to add that to the salad. A little bit of this fennel fronds chopped up, mostly for looks. And add a little bit of olive oil, not a ton. It doesn't need too much. And then I just toss it together, and then you have a very refreshing salad. Why did I give you each a kiss? I want you to find joy in savoring what you eat. So we're going to practice this with one Hershey's Kiss. I want you to look at it. Just look at it. It's got a foil wrapper. It's got a little paper. Isn't it cute? Open it and continue to look at it. Get the shape. Now smell it. Just smell it. Smells like chocolate. Put it in your mouth and let it melt a little bit. Notice the texture as it warms up and it gets a little more liquidy. Move it around in your mouth. It's a little better when you slow it down than just throwing it in and eating it up. So some of my patients with certain eating disorders, I tell them, eat at least one meal like a Frenchman. What does that mean? It's like savor it. Smell, notice the texture, slow down, and find the joy. There are many ways that food affects your mental health. If your blood sugar plummets, so does your mood often, your energy level, your blood sugar's high, your anxiety can be up. If you're hungry, it can increase your anxiety and make you less patient as you're hungry. There are many different ways that mental health is affected by what you eat and when you eat. We need nourishment for our hearts and brains, as the presentation before me said. It's really important that you take in enough nutrients so that you're thinking. People with eating disorders such as anorexia often display very rigid thinking because there's a connection between starving your brain, starving your heart, and just this rigidity of thought. They said there's no need to completely avoid salt or sugar or fat. So disclaimer, if you do have a disease or a disorder or an allergy that is affected by food, I do think you should consult an RD or get some advice specific for your disorder. If we look at, from public health point of view, what is a typical diet in the United States? We tend to eat too much salt. Some of us eat the pretzels and take our finger at the bottom of the salt, get even more of the salt. And salt can, for some people, increase your blood pressure. Not everyone. Not everyone is salt sensitive. We tend to eat more sugar than we need, especially simple sugars. We tend to eat more saturated fat and total fat and calories. If you're typical, then those are things that perhaps you can work on cutting down. We tend to have too little fiber, too little whole fruits and vegetables. So how can you reduce the salt in your diet? Basically by knowing how to cook and cooking for yourself, putting the salt in your own food rather than allowing someone at a restaurant or a fast food or processing plant to create your food for you. You want to choose fresh meat, fresh fish, fresh vegetables. If you're choosing between canned and frozen vegetables because of cost, go with frozen. They have less sodium or salt in them. The condiments you use, like the ketchup, the mustard, soy sauce, adds a lot of sodium. So you may want to cut down on those condiments and figure out ways to add flavor without salt, maybe hot peppers, lemon, things like that. Sugar, the simplest way to reduce the sugar in your diet is to stop drinking sugar-sweetened soda. I don't know if you realize how hard it is for me to say soda. I'm from Chicago, so I was going to say pop, but you go, pop? Okay. So any sugar-sweetened drinks, you replace those with water. Soda is empty calories. There's no nutrients in it, so you're not losing any nutrients by giving up on the sugar. You want to choose more complex carbohydrates than your simple carbohydrates. For saturated fats, you want to balance the fats throughout your week. So if every day you're eating things like beef and pork and lamb, that's all saturated fat. You want to incorporate more chicken or fish or vegetable meals. Choose your cooking methods that add less fat, because overall fat is something we want to reduce as well. You want to choose your monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, so vegetables, poultry, fish, nuts. Fiber, you want to eat whole foods, whole fruits and vegetables with the peel and the seed if they're edible. You might want to choose brown rice, choose quinoa over your white grains, but white grains are still a good source of complex carbohydrates. Snack on nuts, those are high fiber. Add your beans to your soups, add beans to your salad, that will add some fiber. I think that's all I have today, but if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer or try to answer or tell you I can't answer. So how is the Hershey's Kiss? So when you slow down, you get more in your senses with it.
Where did you learn to cook?
Grandparents throughout my whole life. My had a French grandmother, an Italian grandmother. And my mother wasn't a very good cook, so it was sort of self-defense. And the last time I was paid to cook, I think I was 16. So I am an amateur. Sorry, I wish we had the kitchen here and I would give you the whole meal. Yes? I wouldn't worry about it. I would wash it with clean water while it's raw. You could eat it raw. There's very few outbreaks that come from things like broccoli. You can steam it so it stays a little more crunchy, or you can boil the whole thing, but you don't have to worry about boiling it.
Or steaming it. How long does it matter?
Till it's the consistency you like. So it can't, since it's edible raw, you can eat it raw. You can eat it slightly steamed, or if you like it mushy, you can let it go for 10, 15 minutes.
Especially where if there was
Like a bag versus Tupperware, what's better? What's safer for cross-contamination?
Neither, it doesn't matter. You're both right. I'm a marriage therapist too, so it's both fine as long as you're keeping the chicken blood off of other things in your refrigerator. A Ziploc or a Tupperware would work fine.
big on chicken. If I'm grilling, first or should I clean the grill after before putting either or cross-contaminate?
It's the cross-contamination of chicken is when it's raw, and you don't want to get the raw chicken onto like vegetables that you're going to serve raw or anything, the surfaces in your kitchen. The grill gets so hot. As long as it's above 160 degrees, it's fine. So
The mix is no problem.
yeah. Once you take the chicken off the grill, there's nothing living on that grill. It's way too hot. Anything else? Okay. Sorry for
Well, thank you again to Dr. Piane, and this will conclude our session here. I'd like to shout out to all the participants and everyone here at Spectrum and to the IT and AV crowd that helped us out today. We're going to reconvene at 5 o'clock for a discussion on misinformation and disinformation in public health with Dr. Sarah Cook and some faculty members. Same Zoom link. And then Friday, we'll wrap up Public Health Week with the faculty. We're going to have a book discussion on everything is tuberculosis. Same link, noon on Friday. So please join us for that. Thank you all.